Hello everyone, watching today's first video. We're going to have a look at the ECM 30-day model for today's first video for the UK and the rest of Europe as well. So we're going to look at temperature and precipitation anomalies for the next 4 weeks, taking us into December across not just the UK but the rest of Europe. And we'll see what is forecast to happen by the ECM for the next 4 weeks. We can't show you mean sea level pressure or 500 river heights with this, fortunately, but we can show you temperature and precipitation anomalies, and you get a rough idea of what the pattern might be doing from those temperature and precipitation anomalies. So that's what we're doing for the first video, and then later on today, of course, we'll have the regular week 10-day video update, including all of the usual features at the Hungarian Met Office. So big thanks to them for supplying us with the charts. So we're going to start off with the week 1 temperature anomaly for our forecast period. It's week 46 for the year. We're getting ever closer towards winding down the year, of course. Week 1 for our forecast period, though, taking us from the 11th to the 17th of November. So a proper sort of east-west split here across Europe in the week ahead. Many parts of Western and Northern Europe are looking colder than average. So from Scandinavia down to Germany, down to the central bowl of the Mediterranean and all areas west of that line, it's colder than average, particularly so through the UK, through Ireland and through France. Temperature anomalies here are between 3 and 6 degrees below average in the week ahead, so it is going to be a properly cold week coming up. Conversely, though, on the eastern side of Europe, it's much warmer, with temperature anomalies quite widely across the northeast and the east and down to the southeast Europe, really from Italy eastwards. In those areas, quite widely, 3 to 6 degrees above average. And we have got a core area here that's kind of like from Ukraine down towards the Balkans, where we're up to 6 to 10 degrees above average. So exceptionally mild in the east and the southeast of Europe, but really quite cold indeed across the north and the west of Europe. A real west-east divide with Europe in the week ahead in terms of temperature. Precipitation-wise, we're looking like this, very unsettled through the central bowl of the Mediterranean. So we've got particularly sort of Italy and over the Adriatic in towards the Balkans. Those areas are exceptionally wet, with over 100% of average rainfall. The precipitation, above average precipitation, is extending through the central bowl of the Med too. On either side, it's a little bit drier, so you'll see parts of Greece and Turkey are a little bit drier over towards Spain and Portugal. It's not as wet, it's not completely settled, but not as wet as it is in the central bowl of the Mediterranean. So big rains and thunderstorms expected through Italy and that central part of the Med and up over the Adriatic to the Balkans too. Now, elsewhere in Europe, it is mixed from area to area. So, for example, in the UK and Ireland, we've got much of mine coming out a little bit drier than average, as does Scotland. But southern, eastern parts of England are wetter than average. It's a similar story across Scandinavia. We've got Denmark, a little bit drier than average. Southern parts of Norway, very dry. But Sweden and over the Baltic Sea to Finland, wetter than average. So a lot of regional variation in that cold sort of northern and western part of Europe. And on the eastern side of Europe, of course, where it's very mild or quite warm, away from the Balkans anyway, does look rather dry than average there. So obviously we've got a ridge of high pressure that's sitting around here and bringing up those very mild winds from the south. But in the north and the west, we've got areas of low pressure bringing rain at times, but also some drier weather in those colder temperatures. So a lot of variation from area to area in the north and the west in the week ahead. Then we go through to week 2 for our forecast period. It's week 47 for the year, and it's going to take us from the 18th to 24th of November. The east-west split continues, really. So, again, we've got western parts of Europe looking cold and average, really from Germany westwards to the UK, to Ireland, to France, to Spain, to Portugal. Those areas, and the Low Countries too, Belgium, Holland, those areas are below average with the temperatures by around 1 to 3 degrees quite widely in that western part of Europe. Conversely, on the eastern side of Europe, from Italy and Sweden eastwards, in a line from there eastwards, overall it's milder than average, and especially so with the core of the warmth again in a very similar place to where it is in week 1, extending from sort of Ukraine and some parts of Poland down into the Balkans, then into that southeastern corner with temperatures of around 3 to 6 degrees above average. East-west split in temperatures through the Med as well, as we have in week 1. So western parts of the Mediterranean, from Corsica and Sardinia westwards back through the Balearic Islands to Spain and Portugal, it's colder than average, below average temperatures there. From Italy eastwards down to Greece and Turkey, it's milder than average, a warmer than average week coming up in week 2 there. Precipitation anomalies are looking like this. Generally, it's a rather drier week across many parts of Europe. We do still have this southwestern and western corner that's looking rather unsettled, though. So above average rainfall for Spain and Portugal, up the Bay of Biscay into the west of France, and then into the UK and Ireland, although northern parts of Scotland are driving average, but overall it's still very unsettled actually in west of Europe, and still quite unsettled through the central part of the Mediterranean. Not as wet as it is in week 1, but nevertheless places like Corsica, Sardinia, Italy, Malta, and possibly to the Balearic Islands, slightly above average with precipitation there. It does also look a little bit on the unsettled side down through Greece as well. But going further north, actually many central and eastern parts of Europe are rather drier than average, so anywhere from sort of below countries in Germany eastwards over to western Russia, this sort of area here looks rather drier than average, and then up to Scandinavia it remains quite dry around Norway, although parts of Sweden have above average precipitation. Of course, most of that is going to be snow in the second half of November. And then we move through to week 3, which, of course, week 48 for the year, going from the 25th of November to the 1st of December. A bit of a change, actually quite a big change for the final week of November, as we lose those colder than average temperatures in west of Europe, and we actually go milder than average. So we see big changes for Scandinavia. Temperature anomalies are going above average there to around 1 to 3 degrees above average. Going down into actually 3 to 6 degrees above average, I think, across some northern parts of Scandinavia. Going over to the UK, so a little bit above average for us, and also for Ireland as well. And then we come down into the rest of Central Europe, and again the temperature anomaly is above average. There's nothing particularly colder than average anywhere across Europe in this week, so it's a much milder week there for the last week of November, presumably introducing winds from the south or from the southwest, you would have thought. It's also going drier as well. It's a weakening signal, as it usually is in week 3, but we do see that many, perhaps a little bit surprising actually, given the temperature, but any northern parts of Europe are going drier than average. So it looks a bit drier than average there in the North Sea. Many parts of Germany and Poland look drier than average, much of Scandinavia rather drier than average, and over to the east of Europe too. Down through the southern part of Europe, through the central Mediterranean, precipitation anomalies through those areas are closer to average. So it looks like it will be dominated by high pressure across northern Europe, which you wouldn't think would be overly warm at the end of November. But of course, wind direction is key to this. The high pressure could be sitting somewhere around there, which would presumably allow winds to come in from the southwest. But this is a little bit of a strange one. You wouldn't think that high pressure dominating across most central northern parts of Europe would be particularly mild, but there we go, that's what the model is showing. Drier and significantly milder from much of northern Europe for the final week of November. And then finally we get through to week 4, week 49 for the year, of course, taking us from the 2nd to the 8th of December. So we start to lose those mild and average temperature anomalies. They don't last for long, although they're still there up across Scandinavia, significantly above average through Scandinavia into the Baltic Sea type areas, and then over to the far west of Russia. Otherwise, though, it looks like most parts of Europe are losing their signal. So it could either be that we're beginning to cool things down again through the first week of December, or it could just be that the model is losing the signal the further out it goes. Very often the model does do that, does lose its temperature signal by the time it gets through to week 3, particularly to week 4. So it could be that, but I would probably think that the warm and average temperature anomalies are beginning to fade, and it's starting to cool down across parts of Europe in this first week of December. Precipitation wise, against a really weak signal by this point, still looks or hints perhaps being a little bit drier maybe through some of these northern parts of Europe. You notice it's a little bit drier in the North Atlantic as well, Norwegian Sea just there and over towards Iceland. That might hint that the high pressure that in week 3, the last week of November, is bringing relatively dry but mild conditions. That might hint that the high pressure is shifting northwards to become more of a high latitude type area of high pressure, high latitude blocking type high pressure system. And if it did that, then that would explain why things are getting colder or cooling down, let's say, across many parts of Europe in this first week of December. But it's such a weak signal, it's very difficult to have any confidence in it. Looks a little bit wet on average down in the southeastern corner, but otherwise there's so much white there, which is no signal really that I don't think for the first week of December we can say there's a particularly strong indication either way. So for the rest of November, though, we've got quite strong signals here. It looks like the next couple of weeks are going to be quite cold, really. Many western parts of Europe and the UK is included in that. But then the last week of November goes much milder, not just for the UK, but through many parts of northern Europe as well. Down in the Mediterranean, so weeks 1 and 2, east-west split in the Med, cold averaging the western part of the Med, warm and averaging the eastern part of the Med, and then it evens out as we get through to weeks 3 and 4, or just that mod begins to signal. Precipitation wise, so unsettled in Western Europe, cold and wet really in the next week or 2, and then going drier as it gets milder for the end of the month. Very wet through that central part of the Med in the next week, with no doubt serious flooding concerns in some areas. That's how it's looking this week. It could all look very different next week. It's just a snapshot of what the model is showing. Any forecast beyond 5 to 7 days is fraught with health warnings, so next week could look completely different, but that's what it's showing today. Right, so that's it for the ECMWF 30-day look ahead. We'll be back later on with your week's 10-day video update, so come back for that then. I'll be on the homepage this afternoon. That's all for now, though, and thanks for watching.